Very evening to you all presented here. Without taking much time, I would like to introduce our eminent chairperson, and that is Dr. Sister Principi James. She's the assistant professor, the research department of economics from Kottayam, Kerala, India. So we would like to express to ma'am that we have because due of time constraints, we would like to express to ma'am that you in 10 minutes time. So with this, I would like to inform to our eminent speaker to proceed now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for your warm welcome. Good evening to
Thank you so much.
good evening to one and all who gathered here. My name is, as you mentioned, Sister Principi James, working in College Jamalagiri. As we know, it is already time is over. Then let us move soon. Then we are attending an international virtual conference on multidisciplinary socio-economic cultural studies is organized by Shillong Law College, Meghalaya in collaboration with Cape Comorin Trust in association with Cape Comorin Publisher. I am unable to unmute my video because of a range problem here. Here is heavy rain, so uh, forgive me. Then, first of all, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Dr. Regin Sylvester, who gave me this great opportunity. As we know, we are living in a pandemic era. The pandemic started in the early months of the January 2020, and the world is still battling the same with different intensity, different symptoms, and different mutations with no certainty regarding the end. But this pandemic taught us many realities. In the last week, I read some positives of pandemic from newspaper. That is, this pandemic caused for sharp decline in crime rate. There is sharp decline in road accidents and sharp increase in environmental quality, etc. So even for this pandemic has both merits and demerits. This virtual conference is also an opportunity given by this pandemic, I think. It is a 3 days international virtual conference. We are in the last part of the conference, and it is the 15th technical session of the conference. I take this opportunity to congratulate Cape Comorin Trust and the publishers for their valuable services to the academic field. In this session, dear participants, listen please. In this session, we have 6 paper presentations. The time allowed for us is 1 hour. So for the convenience of the presentation, some suggestions are given. Because of the time shortage, participants should come soon and should respond suddenly, please. Firstly, each participant should present this paper within 5 to 7 minutes. All participants are research scholars. So definitely you have to face some questions for your open defense PhD. So after presentation, 1 or 2 simple questions will be asked. After each presentation, 1 or 2 simple questions will be asked. The order of the presentation will be in this manner. It is in alphabetic order. First presentation, Devu Chowdhury. Second, Nilam Adhyavak. Third, Muhammad H.A. and Dr. Yadish. Fourth, Muhammad M.H. Dr. Abukar. Fifth, Riyadh. And last presentation will be by Samir Azeri. Sorry for the wrong pronunciation if anybody's name is pronounced wrongly. Let us begin the first presentation by Debu Chowdhury. Welcome for the presentation.
Good evening, everybody. I am Debu Chaudhary, a research scholar from Northeastern Hindu University, Department of Law, and I'm also an advocate practicing at High Court, Calcutta. My research topic, in which I will be presenting the paper today, is democratic exceptionalism, rule of law, and West Bengal. Ma'am, what I remember reading an article on the floors of the Indian Parliament, Jawaharlal Nehru, the then Prime Minister during 1958-59, once praised Atal Bihari Vajpayee for his opposing a powerful bloc like Nehru in the Indian democracy. He went further to the extent predicting him that this young man, this young parliamentarian one day will become Prime Minister of India. This was the kind of democracy we practiced uh, during that time. Here in West Bengal, everything is different. There is a different set of definition of West Bengal, a different set of definition for democracy. Here in Bengal today, if you are supporting directly or indirectly, or you are a sympathizer of the opposition blocks, any other opposition parties, you are lynched, you are killed, your women folk are molested, raped, your houses are ransacked, shops are looted and burned. This is what we are experiencing today after the present Mamata Banerjee government has sworn in for the third time. There is entire lawlessness in West Bengal. This is the same West Bengal where Rabindranath had once said, this is the place where the mind is held high and the mind is without fear. This is the same place regarding which Gopal Krishna Gokhale once said that what Bengal thinks today, India thinks tomorrow. Bengal had always been the place of revolutionaries, has always been the place of freedom of expression and speech, of independence. Bengal is the land which has led India during the freedom movement. Unfortunately, because of its open thought process, because of its freedom of expression, and because of its rule of law and democracy, Bengal has always faced violence by the state administration, by the state machinery. Beginning from 1905, when Bengal was partitioned by the British just because Bengal was leading the race in the freedom struggle. In 1947, we remember India was divided on the lines of religion. And if any part of India was divided, it was Bengal, and with the exception of Punjab. Bengal was divided, Punjab was divided, and we know the story of the two nation theory. Before that, we remember in 1946, we had the Direct Action Day, the violence that was perpetrated on the Hindus of Bengal. Thousands of Hindus were killed in 1946 in one single day in the Diet Action Day. Women were paraded naked in the open street of West Bengal in Calcutta. 400 women, their breasts were cut. They were paraded naked in Raza Bazar in Kolkata. This was the situation of communal violence in Bengal. Nothing has changed. After independence in 1967, we had the Naxalbari incident, and we are still suffering the problem of Naxalites throughout India, and it is originated from West Bengal. It was a socio-economic problem which was given a political angle by the left. The left came to power in 1977, and another incident took place. In 1971, the Saibari massacre by the left against supporters of Congress family members. Next, in 1979, the left created another incident of Mari Jhapi, Hindu refugees who had recently migrated from Danda Aranyakyak forest to a Sundarban island called Marijhapi were surrounded by the state police. Since they being in an took residence and refuge in an island, the entire island was cut off, boats were removed, electricity was switched off, and they were attacked. All those who tried to run away were shot dead by the state administration. This was the kind, and this was never had a judicial angle to this. The Britishers went, the Congress went, the left went, now it is the Trinamool Congress. The same thing continues. In 2019 Lok Sabha elections, 650 incidents of violence were reported and 33 deaths in one single day of the polling day itself. 33 deaths in one single polling day. 2020, 660 political violence, 57 deaths and 1,314 injuries, all political. Now, the disastrous part, which has even surpassed the Jammu and Kashmir incident of 1991 against the Kashmiri Pandits. After the 2021 election results are declared on May 2nd, between May 2nd to the end of June, thousands of women have been molested, 17 rapes and gang rapes have been registered, 41 murders have been registered, and nearly 25 to 30,000 people have left home out of fear and migrated to nearby states of Assam, Odisha, and Jharkhand. And the state administration, when people went there to register their complaints in the police stations, the state administration simply refused, saying that their hands are tied. And they were asked to make settlement, to make a truce with the winning team, with the Trinamool Congress. This is the incident. This is the level of thing. Women are molested, raped, men lynched, houses ransacked, shops looted, arson loot everywhere. This is the present situation of Bengal. As far as the role of civil society is concerned, nearly 2,000 advocates all over India has written to the Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramanna, to take cognizance of the matter. Suo moto complaint be registered by the Supreme Court. 146 retired public servants have written to the President of India, Ramnath Kovind, to create a court monitor SIT to investigate on the matter. 600 academicians all over India have written to National Human Rights Commission, National Commission for SC/ST, Women Commission, Child Commission to look into the matter and seek an SIT court monitor investigation on this. A female advocate from High Court, from the Supreme Court of India, Monica Arora, led a four-member committee to inquire on the incidents happened and submit a report before the Ministry of Home Affairs of the Government of India. 9 public interest litigations have been filed in the High Court at Calcutta. I am one of the advocate on record in one of the matters, one of the public interest litigations that is running on presently. The High Court of Calcutta create a constitutional bench, a 5 judges bench to act on this matter, to listen further on this matter. 1 public interest litigation have been filed in the High Court at Guwahati, and 3 public interest litigations have been filed before the Supreme Court. The court initially directed the NHRC, the National Human Rights Commission, the State Legal Service Authority, and the State Human Rights Commission to act on the matter. The state police, the state administration had given 3 email IDs, and email IDs of these 3 institutions, these 3 commissions were provided to the public at large to register their complaint. The State Human Rights Authority, to the utter surprise of the court, act in tandem with the state administration. Only complaints were registered before the National Human Rights Commission and the State Legal Service Authority. All the complaints, nearly 15,000 complaints, were collected by the National Human Rights Commission and the State Legal Service Authority. All the complaints were sent to the DIG of West Bengal. The DIG further submitted the same to the local police station. To the utter surprise of everybody, including the 5 judges bench, the police administration, the police station, the officers of the police called those victims, made their relatives, family
Hello.
members sit at the
You can
police station.
conclude. You can conclude your presentation.
My lord,
Time is going to over. You
my lord,
can
I'll
conclude.
take 2 more minutes.
Please.
Madam, I'll take 2 more minutes. The court, the 5 judges bench of the Calcutta High Court, then created a 7-member body of the National Human Rights Commission. The National Human Rights Commission, with its 7-member team, submitted an interim report recently on the 30th of June, and the High Court on the 2nd of July extended their time for further investigation. The prayers that we have made, I would like to highlight before here, the prayers that we have made, that all the complaints before the NHRC be converted into formal FIRs, all the accused in the FIRs be arrested, the victims who have fled homes and taking refuge in other states be rehabilitated and compensated, and the police administration, the state administration, and the police who have acted directly or indirectly in tandem with the political parties be made responsible for this. And as a compensation to the victims, government jobs should be given to this. This is all, my lord. This is presently running, and there is more to it. I conclude my presentation here with the prayers that we made before the High Court, Honorable High Court of Calcutta. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for giving a patient hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Debu. As a nun, I think it is out of my knowledge. I think it belongs to your lawyers and politicians. This paper, I think so. But my question is a common question. Can you suggest or can you give some suggestion from your presentations or from you, from your viewpoint, to ensure some suggestions to ensure our democracy? it is a common question. What are the some suggestions? It may be common question.
Uh, Madam, what is very important in democracy is the respect for opposition. What I said earlier that during 1950 1959, when Nehruji was so strong, even at that time he respected every single voice that was coming from the opposition. So a democracy without opposition is of no use. Right now, this is the problem in Bengal. They are not asking that these things can be stopped altogether. These things will remain, but at least the state, the chief minister, the state machinery should respect democracy and restore normalcy and rule of law. So respect for opposition and opposition voices is very important. If you curse the opposition voices, if you thrash on them, then there will be no democracy. If there is no opposition, there is no democracy. So
Mm.
a leader of opposition, be it in the Indian parliament or in any state, is given an equal status to that of a cabinet minister. So opposition should be respected. Otherwise, how will we develop in a democracy like India?
Okay, Debu, congratulations. Congratulations for your presentation. You must include all your suggestions in your thesis and publish it, and you should publish it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
let us move to second
Thank you
presentation.
everybody for a patient clearly. This is a contemporary issue which is still going on. So we'll see what the court comes up with the idea, and whatever it comes with, I will include it in while before I apply it for publication. Thank you everybody.
Then second presentation by Nilam Adhyab. This scholar is
Yes,
from
ma'am.
Northeast
Yes, ma'am. Am I
University.
audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, ma'am.
You
I'd like to
can
share my presentation.
okay, do.
Is my presentation visible?
No, ma'am.
Hello?
No, ma'am, it's not acceptable.
It's visible.
Hello, is my presentation
Yes,
visible?
yes, it's visible now, ma'am.
Okay,
You can
okay,
proceed.
okay, okay, thank you. Very good evening to everyone present here. Firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is Neela Mithyapa. I'm a PhD scholar from the Department of Economics in Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. The topic of my presentation today is on urban unorganized manufacturing sector in Northeast India, its size, growth, and composition of workforce. My presentation is structured as follows. Firstly, I'll be giving a brief introduction on the topic. Then I'll move to the data sources and methodology. The third and the fourth sections will be talking about the structure of the manufacturing sector, covering the various dynamics of its growth performance, its composition of employment, and the major industrial groups that the workforce is engaged in. And lastly, I'll be talking about the major conclusions from the data analysis. So let me start with the
There other
introduction.
participants, would you please mute your mic? Other participants, please mute your mic.
So I'll be using the terms informal sector and unorganized sector to imply the same concept. So the idea of the informal sector was introduced by Keith Hart in 1971 based on his fieldwork studies among the urban workers in Ghana. In India, the sector contributes around 90% of the labor force and 50% of the GDP. And in this context, the urban informal manufacturing sector has gained a lot of importance because it has absorbed a large proportion of the labor force who have migrated from the rural areas in search of gainful employment opportunities. Now, there are several definitions given for the informal sector. I have listed down the definition given by the International Labour Institution, which defines the informal sector as having the following characteristics: small scale of operation, family based ownership, labor intensive activity, ease of entry, etc. Now, my paper talks about the unorganized manufacturing sector in specific. So, manufacturing has been considered as a major engine of growth for the economy. And we see that as compared to the organized manufacturing, around 80% of the employment generation comes from the unorganized manufacturing enterprises. Now, based on the review of literature, we have found that there are very limited studies on the unorganized manufacturing sector in Northeast India. So, in light of its continuing importance, the objectives of my paper are threefold. Firstly, to discuss about the growth performance of the sector in terms of number of enterprises and employment over the period of 2005-6 to 2015-16 for Northeast India, to understand its composition of workforce in the same period, and to examine the major activities dominated by the workforce. The data of the paper is taken from a national sample survey organization covering 3 rounds, 62nd round, 67th round, and the 73rd round. And to compute the growth rate in the variables, the following formula has been used. Now, very importantly, the manufacturing sector has been categorized into 3 parts by NSSO, and I have used this categorization in my data analysis. Firstly, the own account enterprises, which operates on a fairly regular basis without a hired worker. The non-directory manufacturing establishments, that is the NDMEs, which takes up to 6 workers. The directory manufacturing establishments, which takes up to 6 or more workers, with at least one being hired on a fairly regular basis. So next, we move on to the table number 3, where I have shown the structure of the sector in Northeast India for each of the given 8 states and for 3 corresponding periods. Here I have divided the number of enterprises into OMEs and establishments. I have clubbed down non-directory manufacturing establishments and directory manufacturing establishments into establishments. I have also calculated the compound annual growth rate of the sector, and I have summarized the important findings of both of these tables in the following slide. So in Assam, we see that even though majority of the enterprises are in the OMEs, the establishments has the highest percentage share of the workers. In Arunachal Pradesh, establishments have a higher percentage share in both enterprises and workers in 2015 to 16. In Meghalaya, just like Assam, establishments provide employment to a large share of population in all the time periods, but there has been a steady increase in the share of OMEs. In Mizoram, OMEs have a higher percentage share in both enterprises and workers in 2015 to 16. In Manipur, more than half of the enterprises belong to the OMEs, and the state also has a higher share of workers employed in the OMEs in all the periods. In Nagaland, just like Arunachal Pradesh, establishments have a higher percentage share in both enterprises and workers. In Tripura, though the OMEs have a higher share of enterprises, the establishments have a higher percentage share in employment. And in Sikkim, more than 50% of the workers are employed in the establishments. However, there is an increase in the share of the OMEs. Now, if we look into the overall growth period from 2005 to 6 to 2015 to 16, we find that except for Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh, there has been a high growth of OMEs in all the other states. So this was the gist of the structure of the unorganized manufacturing sector in Northeast. Next, we move on to the composition of its employment. Table 6 shows the composition of the workers by sex and employment. Here I have divided employment into full-time workers and part-time workers for each of the 8 states. Now it is observed that almost all of the states, the percentage share of the full-time workers are higher than that of the part-time workers. I have also calculated the compound annual growth rate of the composition of the workers for each of the states and have summarized the major findings from both of the tables in the following slide. So for Assam, we see that there is a higher percentage of males in both full-time and part-time workers in 2015 to 16. In Arunachal Pradesh, more than 95% of the males are employed in both full-time and part-time work. In Meghalaya, the percentage share of males is higher in full-time work. However, the females have a higher share of about 96.97% in part-time work. In Mizoram, there is a 52.65% share of females in full-time work, but however, the males have dominated in the part-time work. In Manipur, the percentage of females in both full-time and part-time work is higher than that of the male counterpart. In Nagaland, there is a higher share of males engaged in both full-time and part-time work. In Tripura, around 85.17% of the females are engaged in full-time work as compared to 14.83% of the females. However, there is not much of a gap between the share of males and females in part-time work. In Sikkim, males have a higher share in the full-time work. However, there is a higher share of females engaged in part-time work. Now, if we look into the overall growth period, we find that between the period of 2005 to 6, 2015 to 16, there is a positive growth of full-time workers, even though it's a low positive growth. However, there's a negative growth of part-time workers in all of the states. So this was all about the composition of employment. Next, we move on to the share of the major industrial groups. So I have calculated the share of the major industry groups in terms of number of enterprises. So for Assam, the manufacturing of wearing apparel, food products, and manufacturing accounts for more than half of the total percentage share in 2015 to 16. In Arunachal Pradesh, wearing apparel, fabricated metal products, food products, they account for 75.45% of the total percentage share. In Meghalaya, wearing apparel, food products, and furniture account for 76.36%. In Mizoram, textiles, furniture, and wearing apparel share of the OMEs in terms of number of enterprises, but they haven't been able to generate more employment opportunities. So appropriate policies on strengthening their credit support, skill development programs, technological upgradation should be considered. Also, the casualization of the female workforce raises questions on their vulnerability to more exploitation of the workforce. The labor-intensive activities needs to be made more competitive in the long run by building up more linkages with the formal sector, better marketing facilities, infrastructure facilities, etc. So this brings me to the end of my presentation, but I also like to highlight one more important point, that since we see that there is a higher potential of the unorganized manufacturing sector in Northeast India, so the major constraints for industrial development in northeastern regions, such as poor infrastructure facilities, shortage of skilled workers, transportational constraints, these constraints need to be looked upon so that we make these enterprises sustainable in the long run. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations, Nilam, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank
As
you,
an
ma'am.
economics teacher, I am happy to listen such type of presentations. You have a good methodology. Your presentation has a good structure for your paper presentation, and your PPT is good. Congratulations. My
Thank you,
question is,
ma'am.
this question may be general. You may or may not answer.
Yes, ma'am.
How this pandemic
Yes, ma'am.
affected unorganized sector of the economy? Can you suggest some measures for the survival of the sector?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, most of these unorganized enterprises are small scale enterprises, and the
Okay.
major problem they have been facing in the pandemic is credit support. They lack credit support. That's why they haven't been able to improve their production capacity. They haven't been able to improve their productivity. That is why one of the main important suggestion and policy to look forward is to provide them a credible credit source so that it will help them to improve their business operations.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Nulam.
Thank you
Next,
so much, ma'am.
move to next presentation. It is by Muhammad H. He is from Mangalore University. His topic is economic growth of selected Arab Spring countries.
Yes, ma'am. Shall I start?
You can.
Yeah. I will share my presentation, PPT. Yeah, it is visible now, ma'am.
Yes, sir, it's visible now.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Uh, Good evening to everyone. I'm Muhammad Al-Chawish, Mangalore University College. The title of paper is Economic Growth of Selected Arab Spring Countries. From the introduction, just I have a simple term to clarify the topic, which is what's the Arab Spring countries are the Tunis, Egypt, Libya, Yemen, Syria, and Sudan, 6 countries. And the Arab Spring period, it started in 2000, at the late 2010 and early 2011 in Tunis, Egypt, Libya, Yemen, Syria, and Sudan, where Egypt, Tunis, and Sudan succeed by peaceful means of transferring power while turned into civil war and international intervention in Yemen, Syria, and Libya, which is 3 countries that's under this study. They are all have civil wars and foreign military intervention. The study just mentioned and compared economic situation before and after war, and also selected some indicators for these 3 countries, Yemen, Syria, and Libya, which is GDP growth and inflation rate and unemployment rate and the balance of trade and the highlight of economic structure of this country under study. I have just 2 objectives. First one, to highlight the economic indicators before and after war, that which is the normal things for get overview of the economic of these countries. The second objective, to know whether economic diversification help this country survive and improve their economics somehow. The research paper is descriptive using secondary data for economic indicators. The secondary is collected from 2010 to 2020, collected from different websites. Economic situation, just overview for these three countries, starting by Syria. Before civil war, just the two economic function for this country, it is the oil production and agriculture. And all of this, just to this section, it contributes at half of GDP. Approximately 26% it is from agriculture and 25% it is from oil production. Same for the Yemen country, also oil production provides 70% of government income and 25% of GDP. Around also 85% of Yemenis export, it is from the oil. Same as for Libya economic. Just for Libya, sorry. Yeah. For Libya is the largest for oil production. It is nearly 95% of export profit and 60% of GDP only from oil production. And is the highest normal per capita per share in Africa. Come to the simple indicators for these three countries. The population as in 2019 in Libya it is 6.78 million, Yemen 29 million, and in Syria 20 million. Other indicators maybe they are the same. The corruption rank it is 173 and 178. It's almost near same. And easy of doing business rank also almost they are same. The difference only in this country it is in the population and oil production and the structure of their total output. That we can find in the next section, which is economic indicators before and after. For the Libya, the GDP annual growth was positive in 2003, 30%, and in 2010, 5%. After 2000 was downturn to minus 26.3. Inflation rate was in 2001 minus 8.84, in 2003 minus 2.00, and from 2004 2010 was positive between 1 and 2.24. The employment rate was the same before and after, is between 80% and 90%, and balance of trade was surplus before and deficit after. For Yemen, annual growth rate was positive from 2001 to 2010, when it turned down to minus 30.5 in 2013. Inflation rate was between 0.4% to 18.5.9% from 2001 to 2010, and 30.4 in 2017 and 20.6 in 2018. Unemployment rate was the same before and after. It's between 11% and 13.47% from 2001 to 2020. And the balance of trade was surplus somewhere before and deficit after. For Syria, annual growth rate was positive from 2001 till 2012, and after 2012 turned down to minus 26.3. Inflation rate was between 3.4% in 2001, 10.39% in 2006, and 4.75 in 2011. But in 2016, reached to 59.1%. The annual rate was the same before and after. It's between 11% and 9% from 2001 to 2020. And the balance of trade was surplus somewhere before and deficit after. We can conclude that it is clear to say the civil war affected the economic where the study also of Hashmi and Faisal 2020 economic growth in Arab Spring countries say the result is to study to conclude the political stability has a positive effect in the economic situation. Come to the next section. It's the current situation discussion. The first one is GDP annual growth. As we see before the period of Arab Spring, it was before 2010, GDP growth was positive for all the countries. When the Arab Spring started after 2010, the GDP growth downturn and the fluctuation of 10 years from 2010 to 2020 is at first, except for Libya, which was positive and high growth in 2012 and 2014, in this point also, and in 2017, which is better than other countries, and the range of fluctuation, what means the negative fluctuation for these three countries, it was between -1 and -30.5%. The unemployment rate is almost for all the period as the data is available before and after, it is same for all countries, which is not reflect the actual situation of all these countries under the political conflict and civil war. Another things we can say, the difference when we compare these countries, example, Libya has the highest oil production and the profit from oil export, it is around 90%, and it has the highest unemployment rate for this country compared to other countries like Yemen or Syria. Next is the inflation rate for these three countries before the Arab Spring period in 2010. All of them, it has almost the near percentage for inflation rate. Not that much. Example, 11.18, 2.24, and 4.14 for Yemen, Libya, and Syria, respectively. Where we can say from 2011 to 2020, it is reached to 30.7 in Libya and 28.5 in 2017 in Syria and 59.1 in 2013. It was the highest inflation rate in this period. The fluctuation of the 10 years from 2010 to 2020 is the high, but there is a downturn in 2018 in Libya only for this point, and the other for all the countries, it is the highest inflation rate from 2010 to 2020. The last figure, it is the balance of trade for this three countries, which is almost before it has surplus before 2010, and after for the Yemen and Syria, it comes for a deficit, except Libya, just in 2016 and 2017, it was deficit, and the last, it was the surplus only for just for Libya. To come to conclusion, we conclude that it is fair to say civil war affected the economic, where previous study indicate the relationship between political instability and economic growth. The situation in this country is more than just stability. The countries are repeating an ongoing civil war and will continue according to the expectation. The results show at first fluctuation in GDP rate and balance of trade, while the inflation rate is positive and the unemployment rate was the highest, which negatively affected the economic situation by the civil war and foreign military intervention in this country. Therefore, despite the difference in economic structure, the study recommends further studies for finding and analyzing the determines critical factors to get up the economic situation in the current state of this country. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations, Muhammad. It was a nice presentation. It was a nice PPT. As we know, this COVID-19 pandemic affect all over the world. We know what happened and what happening in India due to this COVID. And we
Yes.
are eager to know
Yes.
the situations of the other countries in the world. In this
Yes,
regard, this good presentation.
yeah, we have, yes, ma'am, for these countries,
How
we
this
are
pandemic
under
hit
study.
the economic growth of your selected spring countries? Is it in the form of
Yes, ma'am.
inflation, or in the form of
Yeah.
unemployment, or in the form of stagflation? I think you know the word stagflation, coexistence of inflation and unemployment. The
Yeah.
pandemic hit in it is in the form of inflation or unemployment, or in the form of stagflation. That is the question.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. For our countries, that three countries, it has more than the pandemic and COVID-19. We have COVID-19, but we have the civil war, and we have the international intervention, military in these countries, and they destroy all the economic and inflation rate. More, in addition to that's pandemic for these countries, also the same. They affect the inflation and also GDP.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Muhammad, and thanks for your presentation. Let us move to next presentation. It is by another Muhammad M.H. He is from Bangalore University. Topic is the Yemen banking sector challenges and remedies. Mr. Muhammad, you can start. To next presentation, it is by Riyadh Y. The topic is the role of total quality management in enhancing the competitive position of the banking sector. Riyadh.
Presentation. Yeah, hello, ma'am.
Okay, you can start. I think Muhammad is facing some net issue. So
yes, you can start, Riyaz.
Yeah, hello. I am audible.
Yes, you are visible.
You
are audible. You are audible.
Yeah, it's okay. I will share my presentation. Yeah, I will share my presentation. I'm Riyadh Al-Sada from Yemen. A research scholar, Department of Commerce, Mangalore University. I'm here to present my detail the role of total quality management, enhancing the competitive position of the banking sector. Total quality management is one of the most important administrative tools that allow an institution to encapsulate all parts of the organization and enable that this organization to assume a social responsibility and work towards sustainability. Therefore, for this, banking institutions under intends completely towards the total quality management system, as total quality management is among the most controversial issues in the banking arena to get the satisfaction of existing customer and fulfill the expectations of potential customer. This study aims to highlight on the importance of total quality management in enhancing the competitive position in the banking sectors by providing actually evidence of the successful uses of total quality management system in the banking and financial sectors. Furthermore, the study aims to evaluate a brief review of some actually total quality management practices presented in the literature. The major finding of this study is that the application of total quality management in the banking sectors leads to many benefits and advantages that enable these sectors to survive for more extended periods under intense competitions. In this table, I mentioned total quality management concept. Is there many authors, the different definitions of total quality management as reported in the literature. According to DeMong 18.6, he is believed that continuous quality improvement is the key to success. According to Ocald 19.3, a new way of managing to improve effectiveness, flexibility, and competitiveness of a business of meet customer requirement. According to Dahligard 19.8, any organization can implement and management process through long-term planning by using continuous quality management plans to fulfill its vision. According to Lee, 2009, a business management strategy seeking to improve the quality of organizational management, competitiveness, and providing value of customer. Total quality management benefits when organizations adopt total quality management practices effectively and integrated manner in their organization. This will obtain many advantages. This is done by enhancing organizational business performance and competitive advantages. Moreover, the effect and successful application of total quality management will result in intangible and intangible benefits, which are well recognized. Some potential benefits of total quality management are presented in Table 2 by Talib, 2012. In this table, I mentioned that total quality benefits, a list of selected benefits of total quality management as reported in the literature. Total quality management benefits reduce cost of operation, improved employees involvement, improved communication, increased productivity, improved quality and less reward, improved customer satisfaction, improved sustainability, competitive advantage, promoting continuous improvement and innovation, enhanced customer received and loyalty, improved organizational management, improved employee performance management, improved products and service, improved employee morale and reduced error, increased social responsibility and ethics. In the third table, I mentioned some of the literature review previous study total quality management practices in the banking sectors. Almost of them focus about the services quality, in the banking sector. Conclusion, for the banking sectors to obtain money advantages, they must adopt effective and integrated total quality practices. The reviewed studies have proven that the application of total quality management in the banking sector achieving many tangible and intangible benefits. Among these benefits, the most important of which are lower operating costs, increased productivity, quality improvement, and reduced rework, continuous improvement, innovation, enhancing customer service, loyalty, improved performance, financial, improving operational and performance, increasing social and ethical responsibility. This study also concluded that the concept of total quality management has received significant interest in the contemporary literature of total quality management, despite the many definitions that different authors presented. This concept is still not unified. Analysis of total quality management concepts indicated not significant difference in substance, as most of these authors focused on the ideas of continuous improvement, human resource management, operations management, and customer focused. That the most common elements agreed upon by total quality management authors are top management commitment, quality data and information, customer focus, training, employees engagement, and continuous improvement. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations, Riya. It was a nice presentation.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you,
My
ma'am.
question is, you discussed about total quantity management, TQM. My question is this, listen this, can we implement it in all kinds of banks? I mean, both in private and public sector banks and in cooperative banks. There are different kinds of banks, private banks, cooperative banks, and public sector banks. This TQM can be implement in all kinds of banks. It is an yes or no question. You can.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah, if the bank's employment of the total quality management, it's better. They will get it a lot of the benefits.
Okay. Thank you, Riyadh.
Thank you.
Next presentation is again by Muhammad. Are you there?
Yeah, ma'am. Are you hear me?
You can listen. You can listen.
Uh, Hello, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ma'am. I am Muhammad Kasaba. I am from Yemen, research scholar, Mangalore University. Uh, wait, that paper. It is feasible now, ma'am.
No. Yes, yes. It is
Yeah.
feasible.
My topic, the Yemeni banking sector challenges, challenges and remedies. Uh, On March 26, 2015, a Saudi-led coalition launched war on Yemen, which caused the banking sector in Yemen to face a series of challenges and continuous economic collapse due to the ongoing war and the subsequent transfer of the central bank from the capital Sana'a to the city of Aden, which is laying under the Saudi-led coalition occupation. Thus, since March 2015, there has been two different administration and policies for managing and organizing the work of Yemeni banks. One in Sana'a, the capital city, and the other in Aden. In light of the local crisis and the war that Yemen is facing since the beginning of 2015 until today, the Yemeni banking sector faces major challenges, and these challenges are reflected on the country's economy as a whole. So the importance of this paper comes from its aim to identify the challenges facing the Yemeni banking sector in light of the ongoing war in the country and to identify remedies and make recommendations to be followed to overcome these challenges. The challenges facing the Yemeni banking sector as a result of ongoing war and the blockade enforced on the country, the banking sector in Yemen is facing huge challenges and profound risks, which have plunged into
a long coma and made it unable to fulfill its obligations or to perform its basic function. On top of this challenges is the cash liquidity crisis and split of monetary authority represented by the division of the central bank between authority in Sana'a and authority in Aden. Other challenges facing the Yemeni banking sector are the frozen assets, the collapse of confidence with the international financial system, and the collapse of the Yemeni real exchange rate. This factor will be explored in more detail. Uh, first uh, challenge, First challenge is the liquidity crisis. Since the start of the war in March 2015, the country has entered into the sharp decline in economic activity, and the main concern for government spending has been the suspension of oil and gas exports, which until 2015 represented the largest source of government revenue and the most important sources of foreign currency in the country. Among the most important causes for the emergence of the liquidity crisis since the end of June 2016 are the following. First one, withdrawal from bank deposit increased in June 2016. Therefore, banks put ceilings on withdrawing deposit. This caused a state of panic among businessmen. Another one, the inability of Yemeni banks to serve their customer in documentary credits and foreign transfer. Uh, Second challenge is the central bank split. In September 2016, Saudi Arabia-based President Abdurrabbu Hadi issued a decision to move the headquarters of the bank of the Central Bank of Yemen from Sana'a to Aden. This has created new and intertwined challenges and risks for Yemeni banks. So, since September 2016, there have been two central banks in Yemen, a central bank in Sana'a and a central bank in Aden. Because of this decision, many imbalance and risks emerge, most notably the following: the absence of comprehensive and transparent database of monetary and banking developments as a result of division of the central bank branch system into halves. The difficulty in taking and implementing monetary and banking decision and procedure. Uh, Third one, the frozen assets. Since September 2016, bank deposits in the central bank that are owned by Yemeni bank have been divided between Sana'a and Aden. In general, the authorities in Sana'a allowed commercial banks to transfer funds held at the Central Bank of Yemen in Sana'a to the Central Bank in Aden, but not in the form of cash. Fourth one, the collapse of confidence with the regional and international financing system. The war coalition led by Saudi Arabia accused isolation of the Yemeni banking system from the international financial system, and this is evidenced by several factors, the most important of which is the reluctance of foreign banks to deal with Yemeni banks in the field of dollar transfer and the opening of documentary credits. Another one, the American banks closing of Yemeni bank accounts and refusing to deal with them. Uh, Last challenge is the collapse of the currency. The Yemeni currency is witnessing an unprecedented historical collapse with the loss of control over the banking sector as the exchange rate of the dollar in the parallel market witnessed remarkable increase, rising from about 215 reals for $1 in March 2015 to 485 reals for $1 in April 2018, and the real in December 2020 recorded a severe decline, the worst since the war began in March 2015, when the 900 reals for $1 barrel was broken. Remedies and recommendation in light of these circumstances, package of the following remedies and recommendation relating to banking sector should be adopted. I will mention someone reaching an end the war and quick and sustainable political settlement to restore confidence in the banking system and national currency. Number two, neutralizing the bank sector for disputes and conflicts and giving independence to the central bank in managing monetary policy that work to reduce the level of inflation and preserve the country's domestic currency. Improving confidence in banking system and the national currency and expanding channels of communication with the international financial system. Conclusion, this study has identified five main challenges facing. In the light of these challenges, that the banking sector in Yemen suffers from and their impact on the economy as a whole, it was necessary to identify these challenges and propose remedies and urgent solutions to contribute to improving the banking performance in the country and to limit the continuous collapse in this vital sector that is the economy nerve of the country. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations, Muhammad, for your nice explanation. You mentioned about the crisis of Yemeni banks. They are like liquidity crisis, force and after the collapse of currency, etc. My,
Sorry, ma'am, I can't hear you well.
my question is this: can you hear me?
What is your
Hello.
question?
In Indian economy, Indian banking system,
Shout.
major problem is NPA, non-performing. Is this problem visible in Yemeni banking sector? This is the question. NPA,
Sorry,
non-performing assets, is a problem in Indian banking sector. Is this problem?
ma'am, your voice is cutting, not clear.
So, thanks for your presentation. Let us move to due to shortage of time. Let us move to the presentation. Last presentation is by Samir Asiri. Samir Asiri.
إيش ده؟
Muhammad.
Yes, ma'am, but your sound and your voice not clear for me. You can repeat
To
or
next presentation.
sorry.
Let us move to next presentation. No problem. You can wind up.
Hello.
Next presentation.
Yeah, we'll finish.
Samir Asiri. Samir Asiri. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I am there.
Yes, we can present.
ولا سمعت حاجه من اللي بتساله ما ساعد.
مش مفتوح استعد.
Some
Yeah, ma'am. Are you hear me? Am I available now?
yes, visible. It is visible.
You hear me now?
Yes,
Um,
we
my,
can hear
my name is,
your
good evening for
visible.
everybody. My name is Samer Sirri, Mangalore University. I'm a research scholar in Mangalore University. My topic is effect of capital structure on bank performance on Yemen Bank for reconstruction and development. The capital structure decision plays a vital role in the bank's performance. Bank's performance, which is the core of the financial sector, play an important role to bringing the plus of monetary policy to the inter-economic system. Also, capital structure plays an important role in the success of the institution. A good capital structure allows a bank corporation to move ahead and achieve granular growth successfully. The study aims to examine the relationship between capital structure and bank performance for Yemen Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Research question: what is the relationship between capital structure and bank's performance of Yemen Bank for Reconstruction and Development? Objective of the study: the study aims to investigate the relationship between capital structure bank performance on Yemen Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Research hypothesis: capital structure doesn't have statistically significant effect of the Yemen banks for reconstruction and development. Bank size and growth and bank age doesn't have statistically significant moderation role in the relationship between capital structure and banks' performance of Yemen banks for reconstruction and development. Impact of capital structure on performance: to identify the relationship between capital structure as measured by LAR, EAR, and total debt ratio, where banks' performance as measured by return on assets, return on equity, earnings per share, and profit margin of Yemen Bank for reconstruction and development. To identify the moderation effect of bank size, growth, and bank age on the relationship between capital structure and performance of Yemen Bank for reconstruction and development. Here, table number 1, summary and result of Persian project moment correlation. Table show the correlation matrix. It was observed that the total debt negatively and significantly related to ROE. Further, AR negatively and significantly related to ROE. The relationships between LAR and both variables are OE, ROA, NBM, and EBS were non-significant. Result of ANOVA related that the model of total debt LAR and EAR was significantly of EBS. Here in table number 3, as we can see, table 3, the contribution of the total debt ratio to EBS was positive and significant. Beta is 0.653, B the less than 0.05. In the contribution of the EAR and LAR to EBS were not significant. In the table number 4, we can see ANOVA related that the model of the total debt LAR and EAR was significantly ROE. As we can see, table number 5, the contribution of total debt ratio to ROE was positive and significant. Beta is 0.941, B less than 0.01. The contribution of ER and LAR to ROE were not significant. In table number 6, result of ANOVA related that the model of the total debt LAR and EAR was significantly predictor of MBM. As we can see, table number 7, the contribution of total debt to MBM was positive and significant. Beta is 0.673, B than less 0.05. Result of ANOVA related that the model of total debt LAR and EAR was significantly predictor of ROA. As we can see, table number 9, the total debt of to ROA was positive and significant. Beta is 0.941, B than less 0.05. What's the conclusion?
Hello, Samir. You can.
Yeah, just a minute, ma'am. I will go to the conclusion.
Your findings. Go to your findings and conclusion.
Okay, conclusion now. Okay. Conclusion. As we can see, it was observed that the total debt significantly and significantly related to ROE, ROA, and EBS, as such the bank performance by EBS, ROA, MBN, and ROE increases as total debt decreases. Similarly, EAR negatively and significantly related to MBM and ROE. As such, MBM and ROE increases as EAR increases. Moreover, the contributions of total debt on EBS, ROE, MBM, and ROA were positive and significant. The contribution of FAR and LAR on EBS, ROE, NBM, and ROA were not significant. Similarly, the final decisions regulating the exceptions or the extent of the hypothesis. EAR has statistically significant effect on ROA, ROE, EBS, and NBM, are accepted, the hypothesis and the total debt doesn't have significantly statistically effect on ROA, ROE, EBS, and NBM are ejected. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Congratulations for your nice presentation. It was a nice presentation, but we due to time shortage, we couldn't listen the paper fully, but no problem. In your in your presentation, you told about both negative and positive relationship between capital structure and banking.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay,
Uh,
ma'am.
in this, please summarize some of the positive variables you used. Some of the positive variables you used for the performance of the banking sector and capital structure.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, he left from the meet. Then all of our presentation is over. Congratulations to all of the participants for your presentation. Yeah.
Ma'am, please. Ma'am, I am Kalai Selvi. I am ready to present my paper, ma'am. You could not read my name in the share. Hello.
Dear organizers,
Hello.
I got 6 papers only for my list.
Oh,
Dear
okay.
organizers, I
Okay.
think Cape Marine Publishers organizers will be here. They will answer for you.
Okay.
Okay. Roderick. Sir?
Yes, Doctor, you have done your program.
I got the list of 6 presentations only.
I don't hear this,
Some,
Doctor.
somebody is ready to present here.
Yes, sister, you have done your program. Sister, you have done your program.
I had given 6 presentations in my list. I had given 6 presentations only. Somebody is ready here to present. I don't know who is that. Vadivel, I think that name. Vadivel. Who is that?
Okay, sister, he can present, but only 4 minutes, sister.
Okay, let us conclude. I think she left from the meet. I think she left from the meeting. Somebody asked me about the presentation.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Okay, the organizers will
I'm ready
answer
to
you.
shortly present my paper, ma'am. Please hello. Okay. Okay. Hello.
Yes, you can proceed. Only 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Present.
Most reviewer rapporteurs and respected organizing committee and learned participant on the dice and off the dice. Good evening, very good evening to one and all. I am Kalachelvi, Assistant Professor of Economics, Aringaranna Government Arts College, Vilupuram, Tamil Nadu. Now I am going to present my topic on economic reform through LPG in Indian economy. The economic reform have an importance in Indian economy. There are many change in this Indian economic after adopting this new economic policy, which is measured to the LPG. That means liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And developed nations, they are interested to Indian market and try to invest to Indian economy to achieve the profit and for extend their market. Therefore, Indian economy come on track which lose the decade of 1980, like liberalization, privatization, and globalization came in the behavior after the economic reform. Like foreign investors started the investment in many sector, and many of the public enterprises and power transfer to the private sector. Indian economic open up for all foreign investors and MNC. And economic globalization, so integrations of national economy into the international economy through trade, foreign direct investment, capital flow, migration, and the spread of technology. In this context, the government made some radical change in its policy regarding the foreign investment, trade, exchange rate, and industry, banking, and physical affairs, etc. It also announced to several new policy under the names New Economic Reform of India, which gave a new directions and dimension to the Indian economy. So for LPG, took us long way from 1991, which resulted in the advancement of our country. An economic reform in India started in 24 July 1991 after independence in 1947. India adhered to the socialist policy attempt to have made to liberate the economy in 1966 and 1985. The first attempt was revised in 1967. In 1991, after India faced a balance of payment crisis, it has to pledge the 20 tons of gold to Union Bank of Switzerland and 47 tons to Bank of England as a part of and while out deal with the International Monetary Fund. In addition, the IMF required to India to undertake this series of structural economic reform. As a result, the requirement of the government PV Narasimha Rao and this finance minister Dr. Manmohan Singh started the back through the reform, although they did not implement many of the reform the IMF wanted. In Indian economic reform surfaces apparently failed to address employment growth and nutritional salute in terms of food intake, calories, and also export growth, and thereby leading to worsening level and current account deficit compared the period to the reform period. And next to move on, different concept. Already you had about this related concept of globalization, what is globalizations and liberalization, privatization. Like globalization generally means integrating economic of a nation with the world economy. Like economic change initiate have that and dramatic effect on the overall growth of economy and also hurdle to integrations of Indian economic into global economy. And liberalizations, that means the freedom to make economic decisions. In other words, producer, owner to consumer of the factor of production are free to take the decision in order to promote their interest. The government of India announced a liberalization policy later, like privatization. Privatizations refer to participations of private entity in the business and services and transfer the ownership from the public sectors and the private sector. And the next thing coming to, have you observed you frame in this paper to reveal the economic reform of LPG in Indian economy, to examine the positive impact of LPG policy reform in Indian economy, to suggest the measures of LPG and the economic reform policy in India, improving economic growth. Indian economic reform in India, it follows that several aspects like economic reform in agriculture and economic reform in industrial growth and tend to growth in infrastructures. India trade and foreign trade and BOP and the reductions of regional disparities. And the next move on positive impact on LPG on Indian economic, increasing GDP growth rate in India and increasing foreign direct investment and unemployment rate is reduces employment provide based on these economic situations like developed both a developing country and last an effective of economic reform. And post-reform period, FTP inflow in India, the four aspect-based can be changes like 1991 up to 91 to 92 and 2003 to 2004, and slightly changing the FTP inflow in our nations, 2007 to 8 and reaching the peak of position, and 2010 to 11 and slowly changing this increasing, and after that some fluctuating situations like slowly decreasing. Okay, like the LPG in economic reform policy in India. 1991 policy experienced the balance of payment and dilemma following Gulf War and this downfall for this spell for Soviet Union. And the International Monetary Fund necessitated India assumed to sequence systematic economic reorganizations, and consequently Prime Ministers of the country P.V. Narasimha Rao initiate groundbreaking economic reform. However, the committee like a frame, the Narasimha Rao did not put into the operation number of reform, which is International Monetary Fund locked Dr.
Please
Manmohan
conclude
Singh's
your presentation.
yes,
Hello? Please come to the conclusion,
okay,
ma'am, please.
okay. I will conclude in my research paper. The reform process will not be able to achieve the socio-economic objective because excessive private participation in the economy and the private sector slowly guided by the objectives of profit maximization. And it has to be acknowledged the reform process will not be able to achieve the socio-economic objective because private sector is merely concerned with the profit motive. And no doubt of the liberalization process has reduced the role of public sector's investment, and whole reform process make the least one thing clearly market forces do not help the poor, whereas liberalization process has reduced role public sector investment. It has failed to vacuum created to withdraw public sector investment and in infrastructure, more especially backward state. And finally, the challenging before they combine economic growth with the economic equity and social justice have no option but work on two like the equality restrictions of import and infrastructure bottleneck removing and investment capability while using this sectorial development and third expansion and changing the economic environment in our country. Thank you for giving the opportunity to me present my paper in this occasion, and kindly listen my page. Thank you, Ananda.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Now, all of our presentations are over. Congratulations to all of the participants, and congratulations for your nice presentations. Best wishes for your PhD and for your brightened future. May God bless you. Then let us conclude, wind up the session. Thank you, one and all gathered here. Thank you. Thanks for the organizers. Once again, I take this opportunity to congratulate the organizers for their services, their valuable services to the academic service field. Thank you, sir. Thank you.